In this Redshift for Beginners tutorial, we're going to cover how to create some simple materials. As you can see, we have an example scene set up with a couple of simple objects that we can create some materials for. First, let's focus on our pen. I'm first going to start the IPI render from the render cam, just so we can get an interactive real-time render of our changes. I'm first going to select the pen top and assign a new material. If you go to a Redshift tab, you'll notice all the Redshift materials that you can create. Most of the time, you'll be using a Redshift material to create most of your materials. Let's assign a Redshift material. The Redshift material is an Uber material and it's extremely handy to create most material types. It also comes with presets that allows you to create materials extremely fast and just tweak them from the preset. First, let's create a plastic material. From the preset, I'm going to select plastic, and you notice that Redshift automatically updates the index of refraction and so on. Let's change the color of the diffuse lobe to be blue. As you can see, the Redshift IPR updates interactively extremely fast. Now that we have our blue material assigned, I'm going to increase the roughness slightly. In this tutorial, we are not going to cover all these attributes in depth, however we will touch on some of them. Later on we will have more advanced look development tutorials that will cover all of these attributes in detail. I'm going to increase the roughness just a bit more as the specular is a bit too tight. Now that we created the pen blue material, let's create the see-through material for our pen as well. Assign a new material. Go to a Redshift tab and assign a new Redshift material. From the preset tab, I'm going to select glass, and as you can see, Redshift will automatically increase the refraction weight to 1 and it will take the diffuse weight down to 0. It will also change the IOR to 1.5, so I don't have to worry about all these values too much. The main thing that I'm going to focus on is the roughness of the material. We're going to increase the roughness a slightly bit on the reflection, and you can also break the refraction roughness by clicking link to reflection. Now that that's checked off, we can create the roughness independently from the reflection roughness. I'm just going to increase that to like 1.5, which is pretty much the same. Now that we have our simple see-through material created, let's create a material for the ink. I'm going to assign a new material, select a Redshift material, and use a preset plastic again. For this material, it doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to assign a blue diffuse weight and just bring the value down a lot. That looks good enough for now, so let's move on to the gold. I'm going to select the gold, assign a new material, a Redshift material, and use a gold preset. Now you notice that Redshift also automatically increases the reflection samples to help clean up noise. The roughness, I'm going to increase it to about 0.4, and also it's a bit too reflective, so I'm going to bring down the reflectivity value. You can control the reflectivity by switching different Fresnel types, such as metalness, IOR, or color and edge tints is extremely artistic friendly, and it's a great way to mess around with the material interactively. I'm going to bring down the value a bit more, and I'll also desaturate it. That's more like what I'm looking for. I think our pen is pretty much wrapped up, so let's move on to our scissors. Assign a new material. We'll use the Redshift material again with a preset plastic. I'm just going to change the color to be red. I'll bring down the value to about 0.5. I think that's fairly close to what I'm looking for. I'm also going to increase the roughness to about 0.2. and change the BRDF to a GGX. Let's move on to creating the metal for the scissors. I'm going to select both of the objects, assign a new material, new Redshift material, and use the aluminium preset. As you can see, it's extremely fast to assign new materials and tweak their settings with Redshift. The aluminium preset is pretty good out of the box, but let's increase the roughness to about 0.5, and I'm also going to make it less reflective by bringing the value down. That's more like what I'm looking for. Great, let's move on to the candle. For the candle, I'm going to assign a new material, but in this case, we're going to use a Redshift subsurface material. The Redshift subsurface material also comes with presets. As you can see, we have presets for different skin types, different liquids, which are extremely useful. In this case, I found that the milk skimmed works extremely well. Subsurface scattering uses a point cloud method, which means that currently it's not supported in IPR. However, it will be added in a later version of Redshift. For now, let's select a region and do a bucket render. As you can see, bucket rendering is extremely fast, and we notice our subsurface scattering in action straight away. I'll save this preview, and I'm going to increase the scatter radius to 3. Let's do another bucket render. If we compare the two renders, we can clearly see how the scatter radius affects our material. I'm also going to make the scatter color a bit more saturated. We'll notice this effect more at the bottom of the candle. Again, I'll save this preview and do another region render. Notice how we're getting a yellow scatter color. Now that I'm happy with the wax material, let's create a render for the whole candle. As you can see, Redshift first calculates the subsurface scattering, and then it will start the bucket rendering. Let's assign our last material really quick to finish up the candle. I'm going to assign a new material, use a Redshift material, and I'm just going to take down the weight of reflection as we don't need any, and I'm also going to bring down the diffuse value to be a bit lower. Let's switch back to our IPR render so everything is a bit more interactive. Great. Now that we have our candle created, let's cover blend materials. Blend materials are extremely powerful to create photoreal materials, and they are fairly simple to use. Let's open our node editor by going to render editors and use a hypershade. Now that I have my hypershade open, I'm first going to rename our metal material to be a metal, and I'm going to bring it into our node editor. Let's create a new material as we're going to assign a sticker to this scissor. Let's create a Redshift material. And rename it to be our label. Let's also create a Redshift blend material. The Redshift blend material allows you to blend materials together by using different masks. As you can see, there is always a base layer, which is the bottom layer, and all these layers get assigned to the top. In this case, our base layer is going to be our metal, and our layer 1 is going to be our label. As IPR is still running, I'm going to move this window to the right so we have a bit more breathing space. Let's assign the blend material to our scissors. Now that we have our blend material assigned, Let's change the label material to be a pink material just to demonstrate how the blend material works. As you can see, the blend material is assigned, however it's still completely metallic. That's because of the blend color. As you can see, currently it's completely black, which means that the pink material is completely masked. If I start increasing this, in the IPR you'll notice how it starts turning pink. However, currently it has 50% weight. Let's bring that up to 100% and you'll notice that the material is completely pink. To create a more practical material, let's turn this top material to be a label. Our weight is down, and for a diffuse color we just need a texture. If we create a file texture and go to your source images, textures, we have a Redshift label. Now that we have the file texture, let's assign it to be our diffuse color. You'll notice that I IPR updates straight away and you can see the Redshift logo and the Redshift text. However, everything is completely black, so let's use a mask. Fortunately, our file node over here also includes an alpha that we can hook up to our Redshift material blender. Let's press 3 on the material blender to open up all the attributes, as well as hit 3 on the file node. The blend color 1 is our mask, and the out alpha is what we need to hook up to our mask. So let's plug in the out alpha to the blend color red, green and blue. You'll notice that the IPR updates and we have our diffuse material blended onto our metallic material. The Redshift material blender is extremely powerful and it's key to create photoreal materials. In the future, we will have more tutorials on advanced material blending to create photoreal materials. Now that we have all the basic materials set up for our scene, let's create a final bucket render and I will see you in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.